The autumn rain drummed against my cramped Portland studio apartment as I stared at unpaid bills scattered across my desk. At 27, I was a freelance graphic designer, living paycheck to paycheck, surviving on ramen and thrift store clothes. While building my business one small client at a time, my phone buzzed. "Dad wants to meet you. Dinner tomorrow at 7. Dress nice, Sarah." I'd been dating Sarah Mitchell for 8 months, successfully avoiding her father until now. Richard Mitchell, CEO of a consulting firm, represented everything I wasn't: established, wealthy, traditional, the kind of man who expected his daughter to date someone with a corner office. It's not someone working in pajamas. The next evening, standing in front of my closet, a curtained corner eye pulled together my best outfit, a navy blazer from job interviews, faded white shirt and dark jeans. Sarah picked me up, and as we drove through Lake Oswego's tree-lined streets of million-dollar homes, anxiety knotted my stomach. "Just be yourself," Sarah said, squeezing my hand as we pulled into a circular driveway. That was exactly what I was afraid of. Richard Mitchell opened the door before we knocked, tall, silver-haired, with a handshake that felt like a test. Eyes assessed me with corporate efficiency. "You must be Jake," he said, voice carrying practiced authority. "Sarah's told us so much about you." The house intimidated me: hardwood floors, expensive artwork, museum-quality furniture. The dining room chandelier alone could cover 3 months of my rent. Patricia, Sarah's mother, greeted me warmly but cautiously. Over cocktails, conversation started safely with her: Sarah's marketing job, local politics. Then Richard settled into his leather chair, swirling scotch with practiced ease. "Jake, Sarah tells me you're in graphic design. How's that working out for you?" The way he said graphic design made it sound like a hobby. It has its challenges, but I enjoy the creative freedom, I replied carefully. "Creative freedom," he repeated, with a slight smile. "What about stability? Benefits? Retirement plans? Those things matter for the future." I felt the trap closing. You're right that those are important. "I'm working on building stability into my business model." "The problem with creative types," Richard continued, "is they confuse passion with viable careers. I've seen talented people struggle because they can't translate skills into consistent income." Dinner was served on china I was afraid to touch. Conversation flowed until Richard leaned back, wine glass in hand, ready for the kill. "What's your 5-year plan, Jake? Where do you see yourself professionally?" Loaded question. He wasn't asking about career aspirations. He was asking if I had any business dating his daughter. "I'm focused on growing my client base and building long-term relationships," I said. "That's a lot of someday thinking. What about concrete goals?" "Revenue targets," Richard pressed. "How do you plan for the future when your income is unpredictable? Buy a house? Start a family? Adult responsibilities?" The phrase adult responsibilities stung. Heat rose up my neck, but I stayed calm. "Freelancing requires careful financial planning. I'm building savings and diversifying income streams." "But you're competing with designers worldwide now, aren't you? These online platforms, kids working for pennies? Must be tough maintaining decent rates." "It's challenging, but focusing on quality and relationships helps differentiate from low-cost competition." "That's what everyone says," Richard said skeptically. "But most small businesses want the cheapest option. They don't care about artistic vision. They want a logo for $50. Patricia cleared her throat uncomfortably. "Richard, perhaps I'm being realistic," he cut her off. "Jake seems nice, and I'm sure he's talented, but talent doesn't pay bills, does it?" The words hung heavy. Sarah stared at her plate, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. This wasn't about understanding my career. This was about establishing I wasn't good enough for his daughter. "I understand your concerns, Mr. Mitchell, but you might be underestimating creative services potential. There are designers making 6 figures." He chuckled coldly. "The top 1%, maybe? For every successful designer, hundreds are waiting tables or driving Uber. It's not reliable." "Richard, that's enough," Patricia said firmly. "I'm being practical. Sarah deserves someone who can provide. Someone with growth potential, not someone running a hobby business." "It's not a hobby," I said, voice tightening. Have clients, ongoing projects, but no guaranteed income. No health insurance, no retirement plan. You're 27 and still figuring out rent every month. His accuracy made it devastating. I did worry about rent, lie awake wondering about next month's work. Sometimes I felt like I was playing dress-up businessman. Dad, stop it, Sarah said angrily. You're being completely unfair. You should think about your future, not waste time on someone who can't support himself. Debt alone contribute to a household. Deafening silence followed. The grandfather clock ticked, marking each second of humiliation. I should go, I said quietly, pushing back from the table. Jake, no. Sarah grabbed my arm. Don't let him. It's okay. I understand he's looking out for you. I walked to the door as raised voices erupted behind Masira, fighting with her father, Patricia mediating. But I was already gone, stepping into Portland drizzle, feeling like I'd failed life's most important test. That night, lying in bed, Richard's words echoed. Hobby business, no guaranteed income, can't even support himself. Everything he'd said was true. I was struggling, uncertain, living paycheck to paycheck. But I was also 27 and had built something from nothing that had to count for something. As I drifted to sleep, I decided I wouldn't let Richard Mitchell's assessment be the final word on my potential. I was going to prove him wrong, not just for his approval, but to prove to myself I was capable of more. Morning arrived, gray and drizzling, matching my mood. Richard's words looped in my mind. Hobby business, no guaranteed income. I made coffee, staring at my stack of bills. His phone showing missed calls from Sarah. My laptop chimed an email from Trevor, Harrison at innovatetech.com. Partnership opportunity, urgent response needed. Normally I'd suspect spam, but this felt different. Professional address, well-written message. Jake, I found your portfolio through a mutual connection and was impressed, particularly your Cascade coffee branding. Innovate Tech is launching a new product line and needs someone for a complete visual identity overhaul. Significant project with tight deadline, but compensation reflects scope. Available for a call today? Trevor Harrison, VP Marketing, Innovate Kai. Googled Trevor legitimate LinkedIn profile. 15 years experience, MBA from Northwestern. This was real. My hands shook, typing the response. Very interested. Available today at your convenience. His reply came minutes later. Call at 2 p.m. I spent the morning researching Innovatech mid-sized software company, business automation tools, growing rapidly but dated branding.
Oily.
Their website screamed built. In 2018, never updated. Jake, thanks for taking time, Trevor said when he called, warm Chicago accent. I'll be direct, we're launching our biggest product update ever. Current branding feels outdated. We need complete visual identity modernization in 6 weeks. 6 weeks is aggressive. What's the scope? Complete rebrand? New logo color palette? Typography, website design, marketing materials, product interface, everything. We want premium positioning.
Spyware?
In our current look screams budget software from 2015. My mind raced with possibilities. This could transform my business. Timeline's tight because we're announcing a TechCrunch disrupt in 7 weeks. Need everything perfect for launch? What's the budget? Asked, trying to sound casual. Pause. $120,000. Half up front, half on completion, plus potential ongoing retainer. I muted the phone to collect myself. $120,000 more than I'd made in 2 years combined. Life-changing money. That's very generous, I managed. You pay for quality. Can you handle this scope? Enterprise-level branding experience, multiple stakeholders, tight deadlines. Most of my work was small businesses, coffee shops, local restaurants, small startups. But I'd been studying enterprise branding, preparing for exactly this opportunity. I can, I said with growing confidence. I'd want clear milestone approvals and proper project management, but yes. Excellent. Video call tomorrow at 10 with our CEO, Maria Santos. Can you have preliminary concepts ready? Absolutely. Great, sending brand guidelines and competitive analysis. Welcome to the team, Jake. After hanging up, I sat stunned. This was the break I'd waited for. But reality sank in 6 weeks to rebrand a growing tech company. $120,000 riding on my delivery. I spent the day researching, sketching concepts, mapping timelines. Trevor's email contained treasure trove's current guidelines, market research, competitor analysis, company culture brief. Innovate Tech was founded by Maria Santos, former software engineer who'd grown it from 3 people to 100 employees. Their branding never evolved beyond DIY startup aesthetics. By evening, I had strategy foundation, 3 directions: modern, professional, clean; corporate, innovative leader, bold, tech-focused; trusted partner, warm, approachable. Sarah called. At 8, voice cautious. How are you doing? Better than okay. I just landed the biggest client of my career. What? Tell me everything. I explained Innovate Tech, the scope, timeline. Her excitement grew with each detail. $1,000? That's incredible. This is exactly what you've been working toward. It'll be intense. 16-hour days for 6 weeks. You can do it. You're so talented and work harder than anyone I know. We talked for an hour about possibilities. What this meant for my career. About last night, Sarah said. I'm still furious with my dad. Maybe he was just looking out for you. That doesn't excuse how he talked to you. But maybe this project is what you need. Not to prove anything to him, but to yourself. She was right. I'd been so focused on surviving that I'd lost sight of my real capabilities. That night, I worked until 4 a.m., developing mood boards, preliminary logos, presentation, explaining my strategic thinking. Modern Professional emphasized clean lines, navy and silver palette. Innovative Leader was bolder dynamic logo, suggesting movement, bright colors, cutting-edge typography. Trusted Partner split the difference, warm colors, approachable feel. Professional yet friendly, as I fell asleep. I thought about Richard's words. Hobby business. Can't even support himself. In ours, I'd be presenting to a CEO willing to pay me more than he probably thought I made annually. This wasn't just about proving Richard wrong. It was about proving to myself. I was capable of more than I'd been settling for. The video call with CEO Maria Santos exceeded expectations. Sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd built the company from startup, 200 employees. Awards and industry accolades decorated her office background. Jake, I've reviewed your portfolio. Impressive, but I need to know you can handle this scope. We're not just updating our look, we're repositioning in the market. This rebrand will either elevate us or confuse customers. No middle ground. I walked through my 3 strategic directions, explaining thinking behind each approach and market positioning impact. She asked pointed questions about implementation, timeline, enterprise experience. I like Innovative Leader direction, bold, differentiating, positions us as forward-thinking. But I'm concerned about alienating existing customers. Valid concern. I said, but your customers chose you for functionality and reliability, not branding. More professional, innovative look will increase their confidence while attracting enterprise clients you're targeting. She nodded thoughtfully. Implementation strategy? Comprehensive brand guidelines covering every application? Everything. Updates simultaneously, mail signatures, business cards, presentations, social media. We'll message this as evolution from growth, not fundamental change. Trevor leaned forward. Timeline realistic for 6 weeks. Tight but doable. Week 1. Finalize logo and palette. Week 2. Complete guidelines. Begin website. Week 3. Marketing materials. Week 4. Website development. Interface updates. Week 5. Revisions. Week 6. Launch prep. Maria studied me. You understand? There's no room for error. Announcing at TechCrunch, disrupt everything must be perfect. I understand and I'm committed to delivering exactly what you need, Trevor. Jake understands our vision and has skills to execute. His strategic thinking is solid, timeline realistic. Okay? Jake, let's do this. Contract arrived that afternoon. $60,000 up front, $60,000 on completion. I signed at 11 p.m. The next 6 weeks, blurted in hour days, endless revisions, ungodly amounts of coffee. My studio became a war room, mood boards on every wall. Color samples scattered everywhere, multiple monitors showing different project aspects. I started with the logo. Their current mark was generic template word mark. I developed something clean and modern with subtle geometric elements, suggesting innovation and forward momentum. The icon abstractly represented interconnected processes, tying to their automation business. Color palette evolved from blue and gray to sophisticated navy, electric blue, and warm gray accents. Navy provided authority. Electric blue suggested innovation. Warm gray kept everything grounded. Typography was crucial for enterprise branding. Modern sans serif for headlines. Felt confident and forward-thinking, paired with legible serif for body text suggesting reliability. Perfect balance between innovation and trust. Website design was most challenging. Their current site was functional but uninspiring dense text, generic stock photos. I created visual approach with custom illustrations explaining complex software. Concepts simply. New layout was clean and modern with clear hierarchy, guiding users through information. Custom icons for features, infographics showing automation workflows, authentic professional photography style. Sarah supported me throughout. Bringing dinner when I forgot to eat, reminding me to take breaks after computer marathons. She understood. This could change everything for us. "You're different working on something this big," she said one evening, viewing the latest website iteration, more focused, confident. "This is what you're meant to do." It's the first time I felt like I really know what I'm doing, I admitted. Milestone reviews with Trevor and Maria were intense but productive. They pushed me to think bigger. Consider how every design decision impacted market position and customer perception. By week 4, running on fumes, but hitting deadlines. Logo finalized, website in development, working on TechCrunch disrupt launch. Materials, business cards, brochures, banners, social media templates. Everything needed cohesive integration. I brought in trusted freelancers, Emma, tech copywriter, and Marcus as enterprise web developer. Both understood the quality and detail levels required. "This is some of the best work I've seen," Emma said, reviewing new website messaging. Positioning them as premium, without pretension, exactly what they need. Marcus was equally impressed. "Interface updates will make their software look twice as expensive. In the best way." 2 weeks before TechCrunch, Innovate Tech's marketing team flew to Portland for final review. Trevor, Maria, and 3 executives spent a full day in downtown hotel conference room reviewing every rebrand aspect. "This is exactly what we needed," Maria said during final presentation. "You've made everything we do look premium. Competitors will scramble to catch up." New logo looks sharp on everything from business cards to massive trade show banners. Website had professional polish, immediately communicating quality and innovation. Marketing materials were cohesive and compelling, telling clear stories about Innovate Tech's startup 2-liter evolution. "The website alone will generate more leads than our current site," Trevor agreed. "Integration of new branding into product interface makes software feel more premium." We wrapped up. Maria pulled me aside. "Jake, this exceeded expectations. Want to keep working with you? Ongoing projects, not just maintenance? Interested in retainer relationship?" I kept expression neutral while celebrating inside. Innovate Tech retainer meant steady income, allowing selectivity with other clients and focus on higher quality projects. Definitely interested in discussing. "That good? Let's talk after TechCrunch launch." 3 weeks later, I stood in Sarah's parents' driveway again, but everything felt different. Instead of familiar anxiety, I felt calm, almost amused. Sarah had been unusually quiet during the drive, stealing glances like she wasn't sure what to expect. "You seem different," she said. "Good different or bad different?" Adjusted my new tie part of the professional wardrobe I'd finally been able to afford. "Confident, different, I like it." Richard Mitchell answered the door with the same appraising look, but something shifted as he took in my appearance. I wasn't the same nervous guy from weeks ago, and it showed. "Jake," he said. Handshake firm, but not aggressive. "Good to see you again, Mr. Mitchell. Thank you for having me back." Patricia greeted me warmly, either genuinely pleased or better at hiding reservations. The house felt less intimidating, not because it changed, but because I had. No longer trying to prove I belonged. I was simply having dinner with my girlfriend's family. Cocktail conversation was lighter. Richard asked about work, and I mentioned being busy with a large project, but kept details vague. I could see him fishing for information. "Business has been good then?" he asked, swirling scotch. "Very good," I said simply. "How about you? Sarah mentioned you landed a new client." The dynamic shift was subtle but noticeable. Instead of interrogation, we were having peer conversation. He discussed his latest project, struggling manufacturing company needing operational restructuring, and I found myself genuinely interested. At dinner, conversation flowed naturally. Portland restaurants, upcoming election, Sarah's recent promotion. I was relaxed, engaging, contributing meaningfully, without trying to prove anything. Then Richard brought up the subject I'd been waiting for. "You know, Jake, I've been thinking about our last conversation. I may have been direct in assessing your career prospects." "A bit direct," Sarah muttered. "I appreciate that you're concerned about Sarah's future," I said diplomatically. "Any good father would be." "Yes, well," he continued, clearly uncomfortable but determined to address it. Patricia pointed out I was perhaps too quick to judge. "The freelance economy is changing. Maybe I don't understand it as well as I thought." I could have let him off easily, accepted his quasi-apology and moved on. But something in his tone, still condescending, implying my success was a fluke, made me decide to be more direct. "You were right about one thing," I said, sipping wine. "The freelance market is competitive. It's not easy building sustainable business when competing globally on price." Richard nodded, looking vindicated. "Exactly, race to the bottom. Which is why you differentiate on value, not cost," I continued. "Work with clients who understand the difference between cheap and affordable, who see design as investment rather than expense." "Nice theory," he said, tone suggesting naivety. "But in practice, most small businesses want the cheapest option." "You're absolutely right about small businesses," I agreed, which is why I've been focusing on enterprise clients lately. Something in my tone caught his attention. He leaned forward. "Enterprise clients. Companies that understand professional branding value, have budgets for quality work, need someone handling complex projects with tight deadlines." Sarah watched this exchange with interest, realizing I was leading somewhere specific. "That sounds promising," Patricia said encouragingly. "Success with that approach." "Some," I said modestly. "I just completed a project for a software company called Innovate. Complete rebrand, logo, website, marketing materials, everything." "Innovate," Richard repeated, trying to place the name. "Mid-size software company?" "That's right. Their positioning as premium option in their space needed branding reflecting that positioning, and they hired you for this?" he asked, not quite hiding surprise. "They did. Significant project, complete visual identity overhaul in 6 weeks. They're launching the new brand at TechCrunch Disrupt." Richard looked at me differently now, seeing me clearly for the first time. 6 weeks for complete rebrand. Aggressive timeline, I agreed. But sometimes best opportunities come with tight deadlines. The key is having systems to scale up quickly when needed. And this was ... lucrative work? He asked carefully. This was the moment I'd waited for. Not to humiliate him, but to show his assessment had been based on incomplete information. "It's very lucrative," I said calmly. "The project was worth $120,000, and they want to establish ongoing retainer relationship." Profound silence followed. Richard stared, expression cycling through surprise, skepticism. Finally, something resembling respect. $120,000, he repeated slowly. "For 6 weeks of work." 6 weeks of very intensive work, I corrected.
"I hate that tower."
Days, complete focus. Everything else on hold. But yes, 120,000. Patricia recovered first. "That's wonderful, Jake. Congratulations." Sarah was grinning, clearly enjoying her father's reaction. "I told you he was building something special." Richard was still processing. "I have to admit, I'm impressed. That's more than many people make." Annually, it's not typical, I said honestly. Most projects are smaller. It shows what's possible when you position correctly. Focus on value rather than competing on price. And ongoing work? He asked. They do. Plus, this project generated inquiries from other companies. Success creates momentum. Conversation continued another hour, but the dynamic had completely shifted. Richard asked genuine questions about my business, strategies, growth plans. He treated me like a peer whose opinion he respected. As we prepared to leave, Richard asked to speak privately. We stepped onto the back patio, while Sarah helped with dishes. Jake, I owe you an apology, he said without preamble. My behavior at our first meeting was unacceptable. I made assumptions about your career prospects, ability to provide for Sarand. I was wrong, I appreciate that. But I understand. Where you were coming from, you only had part of the picture. Even so, I should have given you benefit of doubt. Sarah's a good judge of character. If she believed in you, I should have trusted that. He paused, looking at the maintained garden. Can I ask, did you have this opportunity lined up when we first met? No, I said honestly. I was struggling then. Working small projects, living paycheck to paycheck. Everything you said about freelancing challenges was true. So what changed? I thought about how to answer. I'd been playing it safe, taking whatever work came instead of pursuing clients I really wanted. Your feedback made me realize I needed to think bigger. He looked at me with approaching admiration. You used it as motivation. I used it as a wake-up call. Realized I was capable of more than I was pursuing. That's impressive. Most people would just be angry. I was angry, I admitted, but I channeled it productively. He stood in comfortable silence before he spoke again. For what it's worth, I'm glad I was wrong about you. Sarah's happy, and that's what matters. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. That means a lot. Richard, he said, extending his hand. I think we're past formalities now. As we shook hands, I realized this wasn't just about proving him wrong or gaining his approval. It was about proving to myself that I was capable of more than I'd been settling for. Richard Mitchell's harsh assessment had been the catalyst. I needed to stop playing small and start pursuing the opportunities I was actually capable of handling. The drive home was quiet, but it was a comfortable silence. Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, she said softly. Not because of the money or because you proved my dad wrong, but because you believed in yourself enough to take that chance. It was the kick in the ass I needed, I said, smiling. Sometimes, the best motivation comes from the most unexpected places.